All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. I'm the Texas Workforce Commission Press Officer, Angela Wellner. Thanks all for joining us for July Labor Release Media Briefing. We're glad that you're all here to discuss the most recent employment data for the state of Texas. We have Executive Director Ed Serna, who's available to answer your questions today about this most recent report with our Labor Market Information Department. Today's briefing is specific to the Texas labor market release. So if we can't answer your question during this briefing, please send the question to press@twc.texas.gov. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat too, and we'll work to get that request filled out. Now, this briefing runs from 11 to 11:30 this morning. After we have our opening remarks from Executive Director Ed Serna, we'll take questions. Now, to ask a question, please raise your virtual hand in the chat. I will then make you a panelist. There'll be a brief period where in which you come back in as that panelist, and you'll be able to unmute and turn on your camera. You can also go ahead and type your question in the chat, and then I will go ahead and make sure that gets asked as well. Now, please be aware we are recording this, so I will make the recording available and email it to you shortly after the end of this event. Thanks again for attending. Now let's hear the latest jobs data from Mr. Serna and our Labor Department.
Good morning. I'm pleased to share with you that again, Texas has broken its own record of the number of individuals that are working, the number of positions that are available, and the total individuals that are available in the workforce. Our civilian labor force is now at over 15 million individuals. The number of jobs in Texas is just under 14 million at 13.96 million. And the number of people in Texas who are working is 14.6 million individuals. That's significant because Texas, since COVID, has more than recovered where we were prior to COVID, and we continue on an upward trend. Our unemployment rate has remained steady at 4.1%. So we're very pleased with that. Things going on around the nation that individuals may be concerned about aren't really affecting us here in Texas, and we're very pleased with that. We continue to see businesses coming into Texas and expanding in Texas. We continue to see families and individuals moving to Texas because of the opportunities. So we're very pleased with the economy's performance and with our labor forecast. Joining me today is Gabriel from our Labor Market and Information Division. He's going to go into a lot more detail concerning this information, and then we'll answer any questions that you might have. So with that, Gabriel.
Thank you, Mr. Serna. And today I'm going to report on the labor market data that was just released at 9 a.m. today. As you can see by the first chart here, the Texas seasonally adjusted unemployment rate remained unchanged for the third consecutive month, actually at 4.1%. And previous to this period, the 3 months before prior, it hovered at 4%. It still remains above the U.S. rate at 3.5%. The U.S. actually declined a tenth of a point over the month, but also some good sides, as Mr. Serna had said earlier regarding labor force data. We continue to be above, to tread above 15 million in terms of labor force. Actually 15,078,400 after adding 38,700 persons. This represented the 7th consecutive monthly increase and the 35th out of the last 39th months of increases. Employment as well also reached a series high, up 34,800, and basically it had a monthly increase of 38 out of the last 39 months. The series high of 14.46 million in employment. The unemployment did increase slightly, up 4,000, a very, very, very small amount when you compare this to the size of the overall labor force above 15 million. So just a small increase there. Looking at labor force participation, the U.S. continues to be above the U.S. level there. For those of you that may not be aware or may have forgotten, the labor force participation rate is the population of those Texans 16 years and older, either working or actively looking for work. So in other words, engaged in the labor market. Texas at 64.2% in the month for the month of July, hovered or stayed at this particular rate for 3 consecutive months. But we also, this represents the highest level the labor force participation rate has been since January 2015. Overall, with increasing lifespans and the large baby boomer population, overall the labor force participation in the U.S. and Texas has gone down since the mid-90s, but as of late has picked up, definitely responding to all the opportunities in the state of Texas. The U.S. stood at 62.6%. And while the Texas rate had increased by 0.3% over the year. Not shown on here is employed to population ratio. This is the amount of people employed within the labor force. Texas also had a higher employed to population ratio than the U.S. average. Texas was at 61.6% compared to the U.S. at 60.4%. Looking at the civilian labor force, we see that it continues to strengthen, continues to get larger. In fact, since right before COVID, the February 2020 threshold, the benchmark we like to use, the state added over 1 million people to its civilian labor force. That definitely represents very strong growth, and it definitely has us trending upward in a positive direction. Since last year, since July 2022, we added over 500,000 people. So a lot of those, people coming on strong also as well as of late. Over the year, the actual percentage equal to a 3.4% increase for Texas versus the U.S. of 1.8%. So we're outperforming the U.S. level as a whole as well. To the right, you'll see the fastest growing metropolitan statistical areas in Texas. Midland, no stranger to being at the top or near the top level, a lot of it having to do with great performing mining and logging, as well as support activities in that area that support, other job growth at 5.7%. DFW definitely continues to impress 4.7%. This MSA has over 4 million in civilian labor force. So what that 4.7% equates to is just over 200,000 people, an increase in that, and accounted for just over 41% of the all total MSA growth for the year. Waco, 4.5%, College Station, the same at 4.5%, and Boma at 3.9%. What this shows is that growth is overall being shared across the state and not particular to any region. All MSAs also increased, and there was no decline in civilian labor force. Looking at employment, the job growth, we see that Texas added 26,300 jobs over the month. This represented the 38th increase of the last 39 months, so a positive trend there. This also brought us to another milestone, another series high, where we keep saying this every month, the jobs continue to reflect the good opportunity in the state. This represented the 22nd series high as the state reached 13,969,100 total non-farm jobs. Since July 2022, the jobs increased by 3.3% for July. It was down 5.9% from the previous month, but still overall really strong growth, higher than even before the pandemic when we had an annual growth rate of 2%, so still above what we were before the pandemic. Mirroring this was the total private sector, which actually outperformed the overall job growth rate, 3.4%. Every major private industry continues to do well on an annual basis. Also, for the 26th consecutive month, they have been adding jobs year over year. So Texas also was, as we learned today, added the most jobs of any other state added over the year at 441,700, the number that I had said earlier, and also the second fastest annual growth rate among all 50 states in DC. Breaking it down further, looking at the subsectors, at the industries underneath total non-farm. 7 major industries grew over the month and were led by the leisure and hospitality. industry with 9,800. This was actually a reversing course from the previous 3 months. We had declines over the month, but for this month, up 9,800, driven mostly by accommodations and food services. Manufacturing followed with 6,600. I just want to point out that at 963,700 jobs for this level in July 2023, this represented the highest level since March 2022. So 256 months that spanned over 21 years. Had we not had a level higher than this. So you have to go back that far. Private education and health also moved up 6,400, mostly by healthcare and social assistance. No stranger to growth as the state grows. More demand for healthcare and education. And trade, transportation, and utilities up 5,600, mostly driven by retail trade, 3,400, and wholesale trade, 2,700. Looking at the metro areas, again, all metro areas continue to grow in terms of jobs. The yellow areas and red areas are those that have not met the pre-COVID level as of July 2023. There was a trading places there. Wichita Falls and Orange there had met the COVID level back in May 2023, but fell below in June and July. Switching places with that was Texarkana. This was the first month that they met the pre-COVID level and stand about 400 positions above that threshold, or about 0.7%. So Odessa, Beaumont, and Wichita Falls not having met that level. Beaumont furthest behind at 98.6%, or about 2,400 jobs. Then Odessa 98.8%, and then of course Wichita Falls, which had met previously but fell under, is only about 500 jobs off from that threshold. As we look at the average hourly earnings per major industry, we see that the total private average hourly earnings for all workers increased to $1.94 over the month, representing a 6.5% increase. This ended at $31.74 for all Texas private workers. Overall, 4 industries outperformed this. They were construction, manufacturing, financial activities, and leisure and hospitality. Manufacturing actually had the highest over the month highest over the year increase of all industries, up 12.1%, as you can see by the longest bar there. It actually met a series max in that particular industry at $35.34 an hour. Construction followed next at 10.1%. And also met a series max of $32.90. Financial activities up 10%, also met a series max $45.37. And then leisure and hospitality as well outperformed private workers overall by 8.9% to end at $18.08 for the month. As we look at continued claims, they still continue to be low there. They're overall good signs for the economy. There was a lot of concern that maybe the nation or the state would hit a recession. We're not seeing any of that at all in Texas. Still have lots of job opportunities, lots of openings out there. Layoffs continue to be relatively low. The initial claims, which are those people filing for unemployment insurance, was down 7,438 over the month. And continued claims were up 8,500 over the month, a slight increase there. But if you look at the July 10-year average for this time period, continued claims were about 16,500. So we're right about there at initial claims, whereas continued claims, those receiving unemployment benefits by TWC, the level for the 10-year level was 172,000. So we're definitely below that 10-year average in July 2023. So definitely things continue to look good and remain low there. Just to sum up what was said just now, overall 3 main important points to take away. We continue to break records here in the state. The civilian labor force having reached another peak, highest series level. The number of employed, also part of the labor force statistics there, also reaching another milestone. And then the number of jobs continue to reach high levels. The 22nd consecutive increase a 22nd consecutive high there. The unemployment rate remained unchanged at 4.1% for 3 consecutive months. Overall, still considered to be a really low unemployment rate, 4% being considered the natural rate of unemployment. And Texas led all states over the year annually in terms of the amount of jobs added since July 2022. And that concludes the presentation I have.
Okay, we'll take any
Great.
questions that you all have.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for both that introduction, Mr. Serna, and Gabriel, for that excellent overview of our record-breaking month again. As mentioned, please raise your virtual hand in the chat if you have a question. We'll then make you a panelist, and then you can turn on your mic and your camera and go ahead and ask the question. So do any of our media here today have any questions for TWC about this latest labor release market? I'll give it just another moment for anyone to think of questions, which again, you can put in the chat as well as if you'd like. But again, I just want to emphasize with you all too, how exciting that is, and any thoughts. Oh, I was about to have a thought again on our 3 record breaking, but we have a question now from Cora with KXAN. Again, I'm going to make you a panelist, so it'll be just one moment and you'll be able to turn on your camera and your mic. Okay, Cora, please feel free to turn on your mic and camera and ask your question.
Hi there. I just wanted to say first that the chat appeared to be disabled on participant end. But I just wanted to ask, Mr. Serna, you mentioned national factors aren't affecting, there are some national factors that aren't affecting Texas jobs. Which factors are you specifically talking about? But I also wanted to ask which national factors are affecting Texas jobs as well.
I think what I intended to mean is that the things that are going on at a national level aren't affecting Texas jobs. We're continuing to see growth at a greater pace than other states and than the nation as a whole. I think a lot of the things that we see in some of the other states is a move of companies and individuals to Texas. Our population continues to grow, as I indicated, and the number of new positions, a lot of those new positions are because employers are expanding in Texas, existing employers are expanding in Texas, but a lot of them are also due to companies moving into Texas. And then we see a lot of families moving to Texas because of the opportunities. In some cases, it's because their employers moved here and therefore their job has moved here. In other cases, it's because they're simply looking for a better opportunity with regard to employment, living conditions, things like that. So it is less a specific thing and more just what we continue to see across the board. Texas has seen this growth for some time, and we continue to see it. As if you look at one of the graphs that we've got, and I'm sure Angela will make these available to you, but you'll see we recovered very quickly from the pandemic and continue to exceed where we were prior to the pandemic. And now I'm not an economist, but if you just kind of draw a dotted line, as I did on my sheet of paper, that projects what we were doing prior to the pandemic, and just kind of move it at an angle forward, you'll see we're right on track with where we would have been, and we recovered very well.
Thanks again for that question, Cora, and thanks for letting us know about the chat. We'll look into that in settings and see if we can get that fixed so that you can also type questions. Appreciate that. Thanks for the question. Do we have anyone else with any questions about this July labor market release? All right. Well, seeing no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for us. We're going to close the labor market briefing. Thank you all for your attendance. The next labor release will be Friday, September 15th. And we're going to now leave with some closing words from our Executive Director, Ed Serna.
You know, we continue to be pleased with the efforts of our employers, our local partners, and the state agencies to provide services to families, to job seekers, and to employers. to continue to grow the economy. We feel very confident, as I've indicated, that the outside factors that we sometimes read about in the press, and I don't mean our press, but I'm talking about the national press, don't affect us and don't affect us in the same way. So we're very pleased with that. We do appreciate the support that you all have given us with regard to sharing this information and other information, and we look forward to continuing to provide you with good reports like this one in the future. So thank you very much.